Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here, and over the past few days in the House of Commons, politicians have been debating Bill C-2. Now, if you're not familiar with Bill C-2, this is the legislation that's supposed to bring in the new Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit, as well as extensions to the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit and the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, but not the Canada Recovery Benefit, the CRB. Now, in these debates, many politicians have brought up multiple problems with Bill C-2. The NDP believe that it doesn't go far enough to support Canadians because many people won't be eligible for this new Canada Workers Lockdown Benefit. So they have a new idea, and that is to reinstate the CRB. So in today's video, we're going to go over all of these comments, what's been debated around Bill C-2, and how likely it is for this NDP proposal that I'm going to show you, how likely it is to actually have any sort of headway given the amount of time we have left before we need to pass this bill. But before we do, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel and check out all of the links in the description. When you use those links, you directly support the channel and the creation of more Canadian content like this. All right, let's listen into some of these criticisms from the NDP that the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit that we've heavily covered here on the channel, well, it doesn't make sense because people won't ever actually be able to get it.
You know, when the Canada Recovery Benefit was ended in October, nearly 900,000 workers were still on it at the time, and with 48 hours notice, they lost their benefits. So you know, my colleague talked about supporting workers, and he made reference to the Canada Worker Lockdown Benefit and its retroactivity. The problem, Madam Speaker, is that there are no government-mandated lockdowns in Canada, nor have there been for the last couple of months. So the retroactivity, that's just smoke and mirrors. No one is going to be approved for this benefit because there have been no lockdowns. So, Madam Speaker, my question is, you know, when the economy is still in such a fragile state, and he talks about supporting workers, why has he made these new parameters so much more restrictive at a time when the cost of living is going up across the board? We have people who are in very precarious situations. They need a hand to get through to the next year, especially during this time when the pandemic is still ongoing.
Now, the response from the Liberals to this question from the NDP was just some broad statement that the more targeted measures that are coming in with Bill C-2 will be better for all of the people in the most precarious situations, which sort of didn't answer the question about these people who have transitioned from CRB into essentially nothing because the Canada Workers Lockdown Benefit won't actually apply to anyone because there haven't been any lockdowns, and there may not be in the future. And this is where the NDP proposed in one of the Member of Parliament speeches during this debate the reinstatement of the Canada Recovery Benefit at a $500 per week rate. Let's listen in on this, and then we'll talk more about it after you've heard what I'm talking about.
So for workers, what workers need now is the extension of the Canada Recovery Benefit to $500 per week, as long as they need it, to ensure no child, no worker, no senior, no person goes without food. And as part of an enhanced C-2, 10 days of paid sick leave needs to be extended to all workers. This is essential for every worker in Canada as long as COVID is with us. In closing, Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic is not over. The fourth wave is still hitting hard. We do not know what the impacts of new variants like Omicron will bring, but right now we know it is not the time to cut supports. Too many Canadians still need this government to help them stay healthy and to make ends meet.
So, of course, a rather bold proposal from the NDP Member of Parliament here, and it doesn't really line up with what we've heard other NDP Member of Parliament say, so I'm not sure if this is just something coming from the one NDP Member of Parliament, or if this is a party-wide proposal or idea to bring back the CRB, but obviously doing this, bringing back the CRB, would be highly controversial. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but there is a Liberal MP who directly asks a question to the MP who proposed the CRB, but it's not the question that you may think, given that she just laid out this potential proposal to reinstate this major benefit program.
You know, listening to the members' comments, I'm going to draw the conclusion that the NDP will not be supporting Bill C-2. And I would find that most unfortunate in the sense that it continues to provide Canadians and businesses real, tangible support through the pandemic. And we've had a number of members stand up and make reference to seniors in which we fully supported throughout this pandemic and continue to do so. The member and the caucus seems to be of the opinion that under all circumstances, without any exceptions, there should be no clawbacks to any federal program. Is that a fair assessment?
So instead of commenting on the main content of that NDP speech, this Liberal MP instead suggests that seniors, something that's been a big issue as of late because many people have had their GIS clawed back due to CRB income or CRB income, this Liberal MP suggests, sort of counter to what the party has been saying, that perhaps the clawbacks are warranted. Again, not really commenting on the new CRB proposal, but in more direct response to this proposal to reinstate a benefit, one that would cost billions of dollars to put into place, we have a Conservative MP who brings up the point that currently in Canada there is a mass labor shortage. And this is a little bit interesting because there's a labor shortage and also people can't get jobs, but we're going to touch on that in a second after we listen in on this question.
Across the country, and particularly in northern Alberta, there's a massive shortage of labor. And one of the things that we warned the government about when they were bringing in their programs, their emergency programs, was that they should be careful what they did to ensure that they weren't disrupting the labor market. We've seen the labor market disruptions now. What does the member think about how to fix these labor market interruptions? Thank you.
So this Conservative member of Parliament is bringing up the good point that we have a labor shortage and many businesses, restaurants, and other service industries are seeing a mass lack of people that are working or are applying for jobs there. So there's a mass labor shortage, but at the same time, there are many workers that don't feel supported and feel like they're unable to get jobs in the industries that they would like to work in. And the NDP's response to this is quite nuanced. They suggest that perhaps that we can have both at the same time, a labor shortage and also many people looking for work who aren't able to work at the moment. And he says that this is due to potential disconnect between the labor market and the people who are looking to get jobs in terms of training and just a disenfranchisement from the system in general. Let's listen in on this take.
You know, it's a strange time in my riding because I've never seen so many help wanted signs. But those jobs aren't being filled, right? We had recovery benefits and almost a month ago, but we haven't seen the corresponding return of workers to where the jobs are. So that shows me there's a disconnect here in how the federal government is approaching this. Obviously, the skill sets that these jobs demand are not being met by the current workforce. And the ending of these benefits, especially with the Canada Worker Lockdown benefit, we're still going to have very vulnerable people who are going to be without any kind of benefits, without any kind of job prospects at a time when inflation is going through the roof. So I'd just like to ask my colleague, does he see C2 as a missed opportunity when we could have actually invested a lot of money in retraining, making sure that these workers do have the skills that many industries in my riding and across this country are now very much looking for?
And I think that this provides a potential alternate approach to either the having benefits or not having benefits, sort of a black and white situation that the Conservatives and the Liberals are really making it look like. I think there is potential for people to be retrained so that they actually can fill these labor jobs or where there are labor shortages. But getting down to the nitty-gritty, will C2 in its current form, without any alterations to the CRB and only including the Canada Workers Lockdown benefit, some supports for businesses as well as those extensions to the CRB, CRSB, will this bill pass through in its current form, or will they have the opportunity to make a change that could potentially include the changes for seniors, for the GIS clawbacks, and even potentially this new NDP idea of bringing back the CRB? And this is where there seems to be universal consent around a criticism of the Liberals from all parties. The Bloc Québécois, the NDP, and the Conservatives have all brought this up in the debate, and that's the fact that, hey, we just don't have enough time right now to pass this bill through in the way that we want to. And you see, this is a trend that we've seen over the past year since I've been covering this. Potentially, the Liberals will wait to bring back the House of Commons like they did this time, and only have a very short window of time in which they need to pass important legislation that's supposed to support Canadians. Right now, the Liberals are saying we need to pass C2 and we need to do it quickly because we only have like 2 weeks left before we go on our winter break and we sort of dissolve the House of Commons. But this is something that's happened before, right? Them coming into the House of Commons and immediately saying we need to pass this or else, and sort of making the other parties look like the bad guy if they don't pass the bill, just because they potentially want to make changes to the bill or they have some major concerns with it that they need more time to look into.
I'm deeply concerned that this government is seeking to fast-track this legislation before the House of Commons has even convened its Finance Committee to undertake a review of this legislation. given how flawed some of the pandemic spending, and I like how one of the Liberals who spoke earlier did admit that their programs weren't perfect, we have seen that there have been negative consequences created. And now, shouldn't the government be welcoming strong oversight from opposition parties to ensure the strongest possible legislation?
And this Conservative MP brings up a really good point that the committees that are supposed to study these bills, well, since we've just started back in the House of Commons, they haven't been reinstated yet. So we're not even able to have committees that do thorough research on bills, and instead the Liberals are trying to pass this bill rather quickly. So the Conservatives want these committees to be reinstated so that they can make sure there aren't any loopholes that people can jump through so that they can defraud the system. So that's one reason that they want this bill not to be fast-tracked like the Liberals are trying to do. And the NDP, who are often at odds with the Conservatives in terms of view, are saying the same thing, that we need more time to take a closer look at this bill and potentially propose changes, because in those committees, that's the only time that we're actually able to alter these bills and make amendments to them before we come back to the House of Commons for a final vote. But perhaps the Liberals' strategy will work. I mean, it has in the past. Certainly they've given a lot less time to pass other important bills, and as a result have sort of backed the other parties into a corner, forcing them to pass this legislation, even if they don't entirely agree with it, just so that they can get the bare minimum to Canadians, even though they potentially wanted more or some other changes made. It's going to be interesting to watch over the next number of days whether or not this bill gets passed before the pause halfway through this month for the holidays that won't resume until January 31st. So if you want to stay up to date with this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to be covering it all, and I'll let you know the important things that you need to know about. And while you're down there, leave me a comment and let me know what you think about all of this drama. I know it's definitely interesting. And check out all of the links in the description. Again, when you use any of those to open investment accounts or to learn more about investing with the Canada Money Mastery Program, you directly support the channel. And also with that Wealth Simple link, I think there's a special promotion right now where you can get 2 free stocks. If you haven't ever invested before, that's a great place to start. But with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.